Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with your final video of the evening. I believe probably owe you a couple extra videos. Maybe I'll do another one later if I'm inspired. I don't know. But this is a movie called The Dry with Eric Bana. Bannon? Bannon? Bana? Bana. I think Bana. Eric, you may have known from the Hulk movie, the Hulk movie that wasn't very good. He's actually a really good actor, and just kind of he got his big sort of blockbuster Hollywood break, and then that was the Hulk, and it just wasn't a good version of it. Kind of not his fault. It was a weird time when the movie came out. They didn't want the Hulk to attack the army and kill any soldiers because it was after September 11th and they were all, you know, antsy about that. So it kind of hurt the movie, and they made him fight CGI dogs that had the Hulk abilities. It was dumb. It wasn't a great movie. Also, the Hulk didn't talk, which I think was a big drawback. But this is called The Dry, and it seems to be a taut thriller based on a novel, which looks pretty cool. Takes place in Australia. He's Australian. Um, but like all Australian actors, he can do an awesome American accent. But he's doing his native accent here. It's got for some reason, a pre trailer in front of this trailer. I don't understand that. Will somebody explain me why they put a trailer in front of the trailer? A shorter version of the trailer that's about, I don't know, it's 5 seconds long. Why would you put that on the same thing? I don't get it. Anyhow, so this is The Dry. And it is probably a very complicated book because it was a book. But basically, there's a murder, and Eric is trying to figure it out. But he used to live in this town. This is from Roadshow Pictures. And what happened was somebody he either knew or is investigating killed himself or killed his family and then killed himself. And the question is, did he? But it also somehow ties in with an incident Eric had, or his character had, as a kid, where a girl drowned and he was blamed for the girl dying. And so has something to do with that. I'm not exactly sure. Group of friends go swimming, the girl drowns, and maybe somebody takes the blame for it. These kinds of stories are often very, I shouldn't say convoluted, they're complicated because they are based on a novel. And in a novel you can really get into some stuff. So this was apparently a best-selling novel. I hadn't heard of it, but it looks interesting. As always with these kinds of movies, for me, I think it's also interesting to note the setting, right? Because it is set in Australia. I don't live in Australia, so I not only learn the story, I also learn about Australia and how people live. And I find that is another level of entertainment because I get to learn things about, for instance, how the Australian police work. I don't know. Maybe it works a little differently. Probably similar. So, he's, for whatever reason, I assume he's some sort of detective. He's investigating the murder, and everybody's mad at him. See, there he is yelling. And it's also a different country where the sensibilities of people are different. So, in America, you'll have certain expectations, but in Australia, I don't know. Maybe the expectations are slightly different. They're probably very similar. I'm sure there's a lot of universal themes here. But I don't really know much more than that from the plot. I'll say this trailer is a bit. It's more context than it is substance. But that still made me want to see the movie. It looks intriguing, and Eric has a screen presence. I think he's a really good actor. If you've ever seen the movie, he was in what the hell was it called? He plays this real life convict in prison, and he's just a maniac. I don't remember the name of the movie, but So here we are in the outback. You can see it's a little different. But he's investigating this crime, and then, his past comes back to haunt him, which is pretty classic. So here's his past, them as little kids in the outback. There he goes back to the same setting, so obviously it has something to do with it. Here he is with his dad talking about what happened. So obviously this had something to do with it. I think, if I had to guess, and they blame him, if I had to guess, maybe it's his friend who killed himself who actually committed the murder, and he took the blame to save him, maybe something like that. But it feels like a classic story. It feels very very high stakes and high drama. A little bit of action here. Somebody tries to run him over, but it keeps going back to this moment in the river or lake or whatever it is. So I would totally see it. The Dry in cinema in New Year's. So yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good. Now, when you base a movie on a book, a lot of times you have to drop things. You have to cut out characters. You have to combine characters in order to fit it into a 2-hour movie, depending on the book. Some books, they're not. You take a book like American Psycho, which was a book. They say the movie is a great adaptation of a terrible book. I haven't read the book. I did see the movie. I think the movie's interesting. I don't know if I totally like the movie. It's hard for me to like I definitely find it interesting because, Christian Bale is really acting the hell out of it. The character's very weird and interesting because he's a psychopath. So it's not your typical movie. And then you have a book like, well, even a play, even a Shakespeare play like Hamlet, or something like that, or Romeo and Juliet. They did an adaptation with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, I think it was, where they tried to modernize it. It was okay. I didn't really like it all that much. It felt a little overdone, a little overblown. But I did like the cast. I did like parts of it. It just didn't really, it wasn't like Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. Man, that was good. That is good. It's a good version of Hamlet, because not only is it a good version of Hamlet, but it doesn't feel as long as the movie is. The movie, I think, is over 3 hours long. And I watched that movie, I got to the end of it, and I was like, wow. And then I got out of the theater, and I'm like, holy crap, what time is it? That movie was 3 hours. It didn't feel like 3 hours. It felt like, it was very tight, even though it was so long. And the performances were good. So there's a lot of different ways you can go. I am interested in The Dry. The reason probably there's not a lot in this particular trailer, because my guess would be to give away the key salient points would give away the plot, which is very complicated, and you don't want to do that. And to tell people about the other sort of details, since it is a book, those are probably not as relevant and might give you the wrong impression of the movie. So I don't know who they're marketing this towards, but if you were going to market this towards a American audience, the only criticism I would have is I would like to know where in Australia this is, and how that part of Australia relates to the rest of the country, because I don't know that much about Australia. I know a little, but I think most people know at least a little about Australia if you've never been there. They know the cities like Perth and Brisbane, right? So I would want to, you'd have to glad hand me a little bit and give me a little basic information about Australia. Just maybe in the key, like, Queensland, Australia, wherever this is. I don't know. But beyond that, it looks intriguing to me. And I'm willing to, watch the movie and learn from it that information, even if you don't serve it up to me in the beginning, because I find, the characters seem to be compelling, and what's happening within the trailer with regard to the murder and everything, it drew me in. It drew me in. So, The Dry, coming at the beginning of the new year.